What's up, everybody? Coming to you from Athens, Georgia. We got another edition of the Undeniably Rawcast. Well, I'm in Athens. It's John with you tonight. I got my co-host, Rhett. Rhett, where are you at tonight?
My dining room, I guess. No, Greenville, South Carolina. You guys have seen here before if you watched the Zoa video.
Greenville, upstate SC. And then Patrick, I believe you're in Franklin, Tennessee. Is that right?
Nolensville, Tennessee, so just east of Franklin. We actually moved here probably about 6 to 8 months ago. In Nolensville, which is probably about 20 minutes south of Nashville.
Very cool. It's a very popular place to be these days in the Nashville area. It seems like I hear more and more people moving there all the time. So definitely a cool place to be. Well, this is, I believe, our fourth or fifth, I'm not sure, Undeniably Rawcast. So our channel, Undeniably Raw, we have a kind of a couple series going on. We have a gym tour series. We've got another series that's dedicated to a lot of the outdoor stuff we do, like kayaking and rafting. But on our previous Undeniably Rawcast, we have had, it's been a largely UGA affiliated crowd because we had one of my good friends, Camler Cook, who just missed playing with both me and Patrick, which I'll tell you more about both of our playing careers in a moment. But Camler Cook, he wrote a book called From Underdog to Bulldog, My Journey as a College Football Walk-On. We had Nick Gentile, who was he was the general manager of Crunch Fitness in Athens. He ended up overseeing a lot of different locations of Crunch Fitness and counting. And then most recently, we were excited to have Wes Blankenship, who worked in television and radio in Georgia for a few years. And he is also a UGA grad. He worked for 11 Alive Sports. And tonight, we're really blessed to have Patrick Beless with us tonight. Like I said, a teammate of mine back at Georgia. And but before I get into talking about Patrick, Rhett, what we got going on this weekend, man?
Well, college football starts for one. I mean, I guess there was a game last week, but I'm not going to talk about that. But no, Clemson versus Georgia. This is pretty exciting stuff. Little background: the last time Georgia lost the season opener was 2013 against Clemson. The last time Clemson lost the season opener was 2014 against Georgia. And it's at a neutral site, the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. John and I will both be there. I'm pretty pumped, man. It's pretty good weekend.
Yeah, that's how I know Rhett. Patrick, I don't know if you know this. I don't think you've made Rhett's acquaintance before. So I met Rhett in graduate school at Clemson. So hence his Clemson stuff behind him. So we both have a special connection to this game. And nobody has more of a special connection to this game than the man that we're here with today, Patrick Beless. He kicked at Georgia 2012 through 2015. Super inspirational story. I'm so pumped to have him tell a little bit about his life today. So Patrick, what's going on with you, man? What's up?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to watch this game as well. I mean, it does bring back some memories. Actually, I was just telling Rhett that yesterday was the 8-year anniversary of when they get to go kick in Death Valley. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's gonna be a good game.
How was that experience, Death Valley? First time starter.
So it was really cool. I mean, it was a night game. It was college game day was there. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, you don't want it to be as a Georgia guy, and you make a big deal out of well Death Valley. It's nothing compared to Sanford Stadium. Man, it was awesome. It was probably the loudest that I had heard I think it was in the third quarter. I mean, it was a tie game. It was 21-21. Clemson got 2 sacks in a row on our opening possession in the second half, and it got so loud when Brown started playing. It was crazy. It was an awesome experience, but wish we could have obviously won instead of we lost by 3.
So to give a little introduction to what Patrick is talking about here, because I know we've probably got a mixture of people watching this tonight. Some people who are more recent Georgia fans, or some people who may be kind of neutral and just follow our channel. So in 2013, this was Patrick's second year on the football team at Georgia as a kicker.
Right.
We were slated, Georgia, I say we, it was before I joined the team. I joined in 2014, but in 2013, we were slated to open the season at Death Valley Memorial Stadium in Clemson. It was a college game day game, like Patrick said. I think it's like an 8 o'clock kick. Huge deal. A lot of anticipation, as it always is, for this matchup. And during the off season, a couple things transpired. I'll just leave it at that. And they left Patrick with the starting job going into the Clemson matchup as the kicker. And obviously, with Death Valley being known for being one of the more intimidating venues in all of sports, I dare say, pretty big pressure. But I kind of want to talk about Patrick. I kind of want to talk about what got you to that point. Starting kind of with you know, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your upbringing and kind of your athletic career early on, and just how it all shaped up for you to go play for the Dawgs and what led up to that day.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and grew up playing all sorts of sports. I was into soccer, swimming, baseball, basketball, pretty much everything except for football. I wanted to play. I loved watching it on TV. I was actually a big Florida Gator fan. I loved Steve Spurrier. That was my hero. But whenever I asked to play football, my parents said, "No, you're too small. You'll get squished." Nobody in the family's played football before, so that kind of dropped for a while until I was in my sophomore year at Marist High School, and brought up the subject again. I knew that the JV team needed a kicker. And, you know, I convinced my parents, like, look, I mean, I'd be the kicker. I'm not going to be getting hit. And so I was pretty burnt out on soccer as well. I was a year-round soccer player. I even went over to England to play for 2 weeks as kind of a tryout deal. Scored against Reading FC, which was supposed to be the second-ranked team in England. So that was a cool experience. But by the time I was 15, I've been playing it year round since I was like 4 years old. I was just burnt out on it. So definitely decided to give football a chance. And so I was the backup on the JV team, but I still got to play, you know, somewhat. It was kind of, you know, rotate every other kick. And I had a lot of fun, even though I was 115 pounds at the time. So JV season ended, and, you know, I thought, okay, well, I really want to give this a go. Like, I want to really focus on this one sport and see if I can get pretty good at it, see if I can get some playing time, you know, be a starter on varsity. So, you know, I worked as hard as I could as far as in the weight room and transitioning. It's a different style kicking from going from like soccer to football. Just little minor details that, I mean, it can completely throw off your swing though if you mess up those details. But you know, I think it was my junior year. The guy who is in the grade ahead of me, he ended up getting a full ride to Georgia Tech as a kicker, and then the guy who's in the grade below me, he eventually got a full ride to Florida. So I was sandwiched in between. So I had, you know, incredible kicker as a senior. I was a junior, and then behind me is a sophomore. So didn't see much playing time as a junior. And I'm hoping, okay, well, maybe senior year will be my year. Worked as hard as I could, you know, worked with, you know, various coaches who had kicked in college, including Rex Robinson, who was the starting kicker on the 1980 Georgia team. And then a guy who would end up being my mentor, who actually kicked at Clemson. I think he was there from 2001 to 2005. His name was Stephen Furr. But it didn't work out. I didn't start except for one game where he was hurt. So I really didn't see much playing time at all in high school. And it certainly didn't help that I was like 130 pounds my senior year. I remember I got sick, and towards the end of my senior season, I weighed in at 123.
I mean, that's just incredible to me that you didn't start in high school, and you come in and you start against Clemson at Death Valley. That's awesome, man.
And yeah, I agree. It is really, really. But how did that happen? So you did not start
right.
because you were, like you said, wedged in between two elite kickers, it sounds like. But what did you do to be able to catch the attention of Georgia, or were you looking at any other schools too? Like, how did it come to be that you made it to UGA?
Man, see, that's the thing, is I didn't catch any attention from anybody as far as playing football. Even though I think I've never heard of this happening before as far as like kickers are concerned, that, you know, my junior year, the three depth roster ended up being like, all 3 kickers, even the 3rd string guy, end up getting scholarships to major D1 schools. I don't think that's ever happened in high school as far as kicking. Maybe I could be wrong with that, but I haven't heard about it.
Haven't either.
But yeah, and get any attention as far as playing college. I mean, who would give somebody who's 130 pounds and never really started a game any second thought? I mean, I've got a couple letters from I think one was from Columbia, the Ivy League school, and then another one was Washington University in St. Louis, as far as, hey, we hear that you played football, if you apply to our school and get in, maybe you'd consider trying to just play as a walk-on. But the thing was, back then I wasn't going to apply to any school that had the word North in it, or it was above the Mason-Dixon line. All right, so those 2 were definitely out. Ended up applying to Southern Methodist, Florida. I was a big Florida fan, remember. Auburn, Clemson, and Georgia. And I got into them. And Georgia just made the most sense to me, as far as, even though I hated them growing up, I was a diehard Gator fan. It was close to home. It was in-state, which obviously the money's going to help somewhat on that. And I felt comfortable there. I toured Florida. I even got a in-state scholarship academically. And I was honest with myself. It's like, the culture is completely different. I mean, it's 50,000 people. You're seeing people walk into class in board shorts and that sort of thing. It's just like, man, that's not what I was around growing up. So yeah, I stayed home at Georgia. No interest as far as, hey, you could be a preferred walk-on or anything like that. They didn't know who I was. So, but I kept training. Like, the mentor that I was talking about who kicked at Clemson, Stephen Furr, he told me, look, you've got potential as far as like your technique, your accuracy. You just got to put on some weight. You got to put on some weight and gain some muscle. So he and I would work as hard as we could in the weight room, and I got up to probably about 150. So I mean, that's significant to go from 125 to 150. But still, I mean, I'd be the lightest one out there by at least 20 pounds. And he said, well, this is the process I went through as far as walking on, because he was a guy off the street as well at Clemson. It's like, all right, so they're going to have these open tryouts. They have to, each fall and each spring. And so when you get on campus, look out for that and go, and if you ball out and maybe they have a spot that's available, you catch their eye, maybe they'll invite you on the team. So, John, I'm sure you went through the same process as I did, in that I went out there fall of 2011, and I thought I had a pretty good tryout, but there were a decent number of other kickers there, and then there are also plenty of position players. Well, they had one spot available, and they ended up taking a tight end. So I was a regular student for my first semester. I was in the stands just like everybody else and watching games, and I'd never been to a Georgia game before, so my first ever one was against they were playing South Carolina. I was Clowney's freshman year, and so yeah, lost that game. But the funny story on that, and it'll all come full circle here in a little bit, is
Sure.
I had this buddy named Jake King, and he was a big Georgia fan growing up and stuff, and he and I were sitting together. And so after the game, everybody's filing out and stuff, and he was from South Carolina. Like, he was, he absolutely hated the Gamecocks because everybody had given him a hard time growing up about being a Georgia fan. And Clowney's walking by the sideline, right? And Jake just decides to mouth off to Clowney, yelling at him, like, well, at least we can read, all this stuff. And Clowney looks dead at he and I and just points and smiles and just is as cocky as hell and just walks off the field. So, yeah, first semester I was just a guy. I was just a guy on campus. And then second semester is when it started to happen a little bit. They had kind of meetings for saying, okay, well, if you guys go through lifting weights and that sort of thing, maybe you can make the team. Well, they told all the kickers, they're like, forget it. Don't even lift the weights. So I thought that was like, okay, we're done, right? Like they're not even going to take a kicker, anything like that. So I don't know. I kept training because one, I enjoyed working out. And then two, I was like, okay, maybe there'll be another opportunity later on. But frankly, I did not like University of Georgia. I was thinking about transferring. I was, I went home for spring break and I visited my buddy at Georgia Tech and went to a fraternity party and stuff. I was like, damn, I mean, they've got this reputation and stuff. It's actually kind of fun. And so I was like, well, maybe I could transfer to Tech, or maybe I think about SMU again because they've got this head coach who really likes Atlanta kids. June Jones, coach for the Falcons. Maybe I can transfer there. I mean, they had that 30 for 30 on Pony Excess and that sort of thing. That was pretty cool. Hearing about Eric Dickerson and all that. And so after spring break's all done, it's the first day back, and I'm sitting in the cafeteria. It's like 2:00, having a late lunch, and my buddy Jake from the previous story comes on up to me. He's like, "Hey man, you going to that tryout today?" It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, "Well, the one that starts in about 2 hours." Well, generally you have to sign like a waiver, and they have to know that you're showing up. You can't just like walk in through the gate and be like, "Yeah, I'm here for the tryout." Like they have to know that you're there for that, right? Well, I was standing at a bus stop. I was like, well, one of two things here. I can either say, they don't know I'm coming, just forget it. Like, I mean, it's too late. Or I can just show up and see what happens. So I did. I just showed up and they didn't kick me off the field. And I had a good tryout. I did well. And it was an improvement over the second time. And later that day, they gave me a call and said, hey, you want to come on for spring practice? So that was the beginning of the process.
That's awesome, man. And you're right. That is somewhat similar to me. The main difference in our stories, which are eerily similar for a reason I'll say in a minute, but I was a big Georgia fan growing up. It's all I ever wanted to do was play at Georgia. I grew up in Athens. My dad, University of Georgia alum and professor, and I grew up going to all the games. And that's all I was, my whole life. That's what I wanted to do. But as far as the journey to actually joining the team, I got a little bit of playing time in high school, but I wasn't like a standout to recruiters or anything. And I ended up going to community college for a couple of years. That did Gainesville State College. They did not have football there, so I qualified academically at Georgia my junior year. And like you, I went out to the one-day tryout. And the reason why we have actually a surprisingly similar story is I tried out. I ended up trying out as a punter. And the very concise version of what happened with that, for anybody that didn't know this already, like you said, they planned to have like one big open tryout, and I was told that the day I found out I got accepted to Georgia in between my second and third year of college, I called the walk-on coordinator and told him, I need to know the info for the tryout because we had talked before, and he said, when you get accepted, talk to me. So I did, and my understanding was I was going to try out for the position of my choice. And about a week out from when that tryout was scheduled, they told me that they were only going to have tryouts for kickers and punters. So me having never had punted before, I actually spent a week learning how to punt, and I did actually pretty well, to be honest with you. I mean, I was hitting them like 35 yards with decent hang time in a spiral.
Punting's hard.
What's that?
I said punting is hard.
Yeah. And my dad did a little bit of punting, and so he was able to teach me a thing or two, and that was fine. But I did it in a week. I'd never done it before, and so I was actually pretty proud of what I did. But obviously, it wasn't enough to like turn heads. I mean, there's guys that can really boot. I mean, we got backups at Georgia. You know this, Patrick. We got backups at Georgia that can kick it like unbelievable. I remember we had a teammate, William Cowart, who during like just practice would just boot the crap out of the ball, and like I don't know if he ever got to play at all, but he was amazing. So point being, the parallels between you and me, I also kind of got like an abrupt tryout. I knew I was going to have a tryout, just not for punter. And you literally 2 hours before your tryout, you just show up and then that's that. Well, like you, I also didn't, the first time I tried out, I didn't make it. And then I kind of went through the summer program, like you were talking about, lifting the weights and everything, and had more than a day to be able to prove my worth. I'll just say that much. And so I ended up playing as a linebacker. That's cool. That's really interesting. I don't know if they still kind of do it that way now at Georgia under the new head coach. It obviously worked out well for us.
But I think
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting that Patrick and I have some similarities as well.
What's that?
We were both about the same size. I weighed about 120 when I was like a sophomore, junior in high school. Except the difference was I didn't keep playing football. I played football my freshman year, and I started wrestling because I was good at it. So Patrick's kind of who I could have been if I wouldn't have gave up on football.
Yeah, Patrick is the alternate ending to Rhett.
Yeah, my alternate ending. So
Well,
thanks, Patrick.
yeah, either that or, if I'd branched off into wrestling, I could have been you. So, could have
Good
been
point.
all.
Good point.
But yeah, so you end up making the team, and so that was 2000. So I guess you enrolled in school in 2011, is that right? And then 2012.
2011, yep. When started the whole thing in 2012 in the spring. Yeah, joined the team. I was 140 pounds and did well enough in the spring game. It was funny actually. During one of my kicks in the spring game, we were thinking that we were going to have to go for a field goal. And Coach Grantham, you remember that name? He was the head coach for the black team on the red and black team. And he looks at me and he's like, "Can you make this?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Good, because if you don't, your ass is grass and you're getting cut." And it was like a 3rd and 16, and we ended up scoring on that play. So it was just an extra point. So I made the extra point and did okay in the spring game. And so they were like, "Okay, we'll take you on for the summer and just see how you do." And they put 30 pounds on me in 3 months. So I went from 140 to 170 in 3 months.
It's a lot of lifting, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was going to
Well,
say. Patrick was known for that. He really was. Patrick was known on the team. I can distinctly remember coming in after some practices, and I guess they let you guys split off from us a little early, the special teamers, and we would come in. You'd gone in a little before us, and you'd be doing an extra weight session by yourself in the weight room. I can remember that, like you were hitting curls and stuff in the weight rooms. That was something that was your identity at Georgia. I feel like to an extent was how much you cared about working out.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it too is. You may have experienced this as well. It's fear. Fear is a powerful motivator that, if you don't put in the extra work or if they don't see that you're, really trying and that you're trying to improve, they can walk up to you and cut you anytime. There's no 4-year guarantee like the scholarship guys. So, and again, it goes back to, I enjoyed it and I really valued it. Sometimes I'd hang out in that facility just to be able to say like, my God, like I'm here, like I'm actually like I belong here.
I like what you said there, Patrick, about the fear. Is that a mindset you still carry today? Like when you go to your work, or you said you just had a kid, is that an approach that you still have mentally? Do you still have that, like, I've just got to go and I've got to get what I've got to do? I've got to do what I've got to do, rather.
Somewhat, yeah. A little bit about what I've done post college is so I got a risk management degree at Georgia, and while I was at Georgia, I did a couple of summer internships for a insurance agency, and one of the departments they have within that is called surety bonds. So surety bonds, think of this, there's many different types of surety bonds, but a lot of them have to do with construction companies, and then also just businesses in general that need these permits, licenses, and also there's an entire court system where if somebody dies without a will, or if they die with a will that's contested, you need a surety bond. So anyways, that's the the generic form of that. So I started in that department, and they pulled me aside and said, "Look, you're good at this, maybe you should consider this as a career." They didn't tell us anything about it at Georgia. It's a very specialized sect of insurance. So I was an underwriter. So essentially I would look at these risks and decide whether to write the bond or not. I did that for 3 years at Liberty, and frankly, it wasn't for me. I was pretty unhappy. I knew that I wanted to be a broker. So I wanted to be the guy out there trying to bring in the business and then take it to the surety companies, to the underwriters, to make sure that, you know, we can get these spots. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be forward facing rather than sitting behind a desk just crunching numbers, right?
Yep.
So I mean, underwriting is making a decent living for me, but I decided, okay, my wife and I, we just got married, and we want to do something different besides living in Atlanta. It's just not really for us. She grew up in Athens, Georgia, and so we were looking at, you know, Tennessee, and ended up moving to Franklin, Tennessee. I became a broker, and it was one of those things where it's like, look, we'll give you a guaranteed salary for a little bit, but you're going to have to live off of what you catch. So the clients that you bring in, it's going to be commission based. So I went from living in a city where, I mean, that's where I'd lived my entire life. 25 years I was in Atlanta. I was the rare military brat who stayed in one place. And I'm taking, you know, my wife, who we've been married for 6 months, and we're going to a completely different state. We don't know anybody there, and I'm going to be starting a completely new job where it's sink or swim. And so yeah, fear definitely was a motivator for me to, anytime I was feeling like, man, I just want to take it easy today. You get on the phone and you start calling people, or you go do drops at businesses. I would say this though, Rhett, that the whole fear is a motivator thing, it can steal your joy a little bit. One of the problems I had at Georgia was that I was so scared of getting cut. And then also I always had my eye on the next thing. And somehow I had kind of contracted it in my mind that somehow God was going to punish me if I, you know, showed a lot of, you know, joy and that sort of thing. Like, it was kind of one of those things where if you get too confident, he's going to knock you down a peg. And so it was always, you know, what's the next thing for me, rather than, hey, I can stop and smell the, you know, the roses a little bit. I can stop at the mountaintop and see, okay, I've done something pretty cool. I can enjoy this for a minute. And I kind of figured that out. Shelly, my wife, is one of the people who kind of told me, look, it's okay to enjoy, to take a minute and to enjoy what you have and to see, you know, the good things you've done. So yeah, it's something where I've always had a chip on my shoulder. That's just kind of who I am. But I'm trying really hard, especially being a father now, to enjoy the moment, to live in the present. So I don't know. You guys probably feel the same thing, where, you know, fear it's a powerful motivator, but you got to be careful with it.
That's absolutely
Especially
right. I
being
think
a
there's
father.
a balance to be struck there. What were you going to say, Rhett?
Especially being a father, you gotta choose what you want to pass down to your kids, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
you know, I've only been a dad for 4 months, and this kid changes so fast. I mean, I'm sure all the dads out there can attest to this, that, you know, one day he's just pretty much in survival mode, where he's just, you know, all he cares about is, you know, drinking his milk and then going to sleep. And then the next, it's like, bam, his personality turns on. I mean, I've now got a kid who, he laughs, he attempts to say his own name. I mean, he smiles, he interacts with you, and it's just, it changes so fast. It's like, you have to live in the moment, right? You can't be worrying about, oh, when is he going to take his first steps? Just enjoy what you got right now.
I like that, man.
But I mean, it does help to, I mean, what I was saying about the balance, like, there is something to be said for, like, you have to keep the future in mind. You have to be aware, you know, you can, like, I mean, it can be taken away from you if you're not careful, but you have to kind of, I know exactly. I very much relate to what you're saying, because when you get to a place like Georgia, like, and this is what I was going to ask you about, is like that feeling of having arrived, but like also you still got to perform. And so
Right.
in 2012, to go back to kind of the timeline here, 2012, you were where were you on the depth chart there once you made the team? Would you say?
If I was playing, something went horribly wrong. That's what I would characterize 2012 as. You know, technically, I think I was third on the depth chart, but I mean, I'm sure they would have used other, you know, they would have used punters, they would have used people, you know, besides me.
Right.
So yeah.
And so then all of a sudden in 2013, I mean, I guess it probably would have been June or July when we realized that Marshall, our starting kicker, was not going to be able to kick against Clemson.
Right.
So when did they tell you that you were going to be the guy? I mean, was that like because I was on the team back then, was that like a game week decision, or was that something you knew ahead of time, or what?
Yeah. So we went into camp, and I mean, they were trying out everybody to try and do this. I mean, we had the top three, primary place kickers. Also had a couple punters trying to see if they could do this, for mainly looking at kicking field goals rather than kickoffs. I mean, we had kind of established that Colin Barber was going to be doing the kickoffs. So field goals, I mean, during camp, they narrowed it down to pretty much Adam Erickson and I. And Adam was a punter, and he was also a holder. So that was kind of a little bit of a paradox too. Like, okay, if he's the primary holder, we also need to train somebody else who can hold if he's the guy. Mm-hmm. And Blair Walsh had come out in favor of him and that sort of thing. And listen, Adam was one of my great friends on the team. I really, he's an awesome guy. So it was tough to compete against him day in and day out, because I'm one of those guys too, where if I'm competing against you, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I'm just like tunnel vision, right? So it came down to a game week decision, to where I think it was Wednesday. So I mean, we've got 4 days before we play this game. Coach Rick pulls both of us up to his office before practice, and he says, "All right, look, you guys, every time one of you looks like you're about to run away with it, you spit the bit. So we're just going to end this here now, in that at the beginning of practice, we're going to have everybody, including the, water girls, trainers, coaching staff, the entire team, just semicircle around you all, put pressure on you. And we're essentially going to play a game of horse, except for, it's sudden death. Whoever misses first loses, and, whoever wins this is going to be our guy." So, we went and put on our pads and went on out there. And I think we each went 4 for 4 in the beginning, and then Adam missed one. I don't know from what distance. I made that one, and then it was, hey, if you make this next one, then you're the official winner. And all these were snap hold kicks, so it wasn't like, you had the sticks down and kick like that. I mean, so decent amount of pressure. And, I was still kind of the new guy, and that it was my, going into my second year on the team. And Adam was established. He'd been there since like 2010. So I think people were, they knew him better. So I think they were expecting him to win. And it ended up being me. And the next morning, I mean, it was all kind of sinking in that, hey, I'm going to be playing against Clemson. And I haven't actually started a game since 2010, and it's 2013 now. So I turn on the TV at 7 a.m. and first thing comes up on ESPN is a commercial. All right. And it says, "Coming to you, 8 p.m. College game day, primetime on ABC from Death Valley. We have number 8 Clemson against number 5 Georgia." And I saw that, and I ran to the bathroom. I threw up. I was so nervous. A full, more than 48 hours before the game, I was already thrown up because I was so nervous. So, yeah, I mean, when you talk about, John, is that the moment that I thought that I had arrived? No. It was, I went through it all, and, I'm thinking, okay, look, there aren't many Belesses out there in the world, all right? I have a pretty unique last name. If I screw this up, people are going to hate me in the state of Georgia, and they're going to hate my family. Now, that's probably an irrational thought. That's probably kind of out there, but it was going through my mind.
I get it.
Thankfully, I made all my kicks that game, and jogging out there for the first kick, I was kind of looking around. I was like, oh my God, this is actually going to happen. And it was this way for most of my kicks in my college career. But when I go out there to kick, the last thing I would remember is hearing the announcer announce my name, and the long snapper and the holder. And I'd see the ball start coming towards me. I'd black out, totally black out until the ball goes over the line. I've already kicked it. So once I got that first one under my belt, I was feeling a lot better. Thankfully, it was an extra point. But yeah, I got done with the game, and I went 5 for 5. We lost. And Rhett, I'm going to have to come after you a little bit that I'm not a fan of the policy of, oh, everybody can run onto the field after the game, like this is high school. All right. Because I had people coming up to me, like Clemson fans patting me on the shoulder and stuff. It's like, dude, like I'm not going to, but I feel like, the old Boise State versus Oregon where LeGarrette Blount just boom, forearm shiver to that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you felt like doing.
Yeah, we lost a pretty tough one that night.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't go to Clemson though, that I've heard that's from so many people that they just don't like it. They don't like, but for us, it's just whether it's a huge game or a small game, like if we would have played, I'm not going to name names of schools, but like Furman or something, but we would still run out in the field,
Yeah, and I mean, I will say
that's a tradition.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say Death Valley was awesome. It was so cool. It was rocking. I even had my own personal heckler. You guys are pretty close. It's not like at Sanford you've got the hedges and you've got kind of the walkway, and so the fans are a little bit apart, right? Death Valley, I mean, the fans are like right on you. So right by my kicking net, I had this one guy. I mean, he's probably in his 30s or 40s. He's pretty drunk, and he's sitting there just giving me a hard time throughout the game. I mean, I will say he came up with he had a pretty clever one at me. He was just like, "Hey, Beless, is your, as small as you are." It's like, okay, all right, that was a good one. All right, I gotta give it to you. That was funny.
You're like, hey, screw you. That was funny.
Yeah.
Screw you.
Yeah. So, I will say also, Rhett, that I had one of your Clemson's dance. I don't know what they call it. At Georgia, they call them dance dogs, but that Clemson
Tiger girls. What are they? The name of them, Rhett? The dancers. They have a crazy name. It doesn't matter. They got like some clever name.
Anyway, one of them seemed to like some Patty B a little bit. So
this was like some little Patty B.
So but yeah, I mean, after the game, and I felt like I'd survived. It was one of those things where it's like I got out alive, like primetime TV, without people hating me. And I looked at my phone. Phone was blown up and that sort of thing. I had 3 missed calls. It's like, do you think I'm really going to pick up the phone? I mean,
during the game, people were calling you during the game.
Yeah, but
hey, bro, good kick out there, man. I think the sideline phone is something you can actually talk to them on.
Right. But yeah, we got back. We took a bus. We got back at 3 a.m. and I was just scrolling through every article I could find until like 7 in the morning, and I was so hyped up on adrenaline. That was as locked in as I've ever been. Like I was so in the zone, like you could not break through. And at 7 a.m. I was just like, all right, I should probably go to bed now. I mean, it was just like nothing I'd ever experienced before as far as the adrenaline. So yeah, it wasn't I had arrived, it was I had survived that game.
But that said, though, I mean, I feel like that's an important thing to take with you, though, too. I mean, you got to run towards the fire there. I mean, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you see is you realize like everybody else is seeing this too. There's all this hype around this game. And like, I'm not just going to be watching this. I'm going to be participating in this in a major way. Like this game could come down to me, literally. You get sick. And what I really admire is the way that you were able to process in a healthy way the whole thing about, you said Blair Walsh, who was our really good kicker for us. You said he came out and was lobbying for the other guy, that you're competing against to be the starting kicker before the game. So you've already got that little bit of a chip on your shoulder and you're like, this, I don't know if anybody believes in me that I can do this at all. Go through that whole day because it's a night game. And then you went out there and you did exactly what you needed to do. I mean, we did have one weird situation where there was like a bad snap or something, but that didn't come on you at all. That was I think there was the snap and the hold. But every attempt that you actually got, you made, and that's really impressive to me. By the way, Rhett, the girls that liked Patty B, it's the Rally Cats. That's their name.
Rally Cats.
I was trying to figure it out. I knew they had some kind of name, the Rally Cats. But no, I got mad respect for the way you performed in that game and the fact that you were just able to. I mean, to be able to face that pressure and run towards it and not from it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, the following week against South Carolina, I got to start that game again, and I didn't. I made all my kicks on that one, made a couple field goals, and we won. And I knew that that was probably going to be my end of the time in the spotlight for then. That was kind of when I was like, okay, I did something special. that was maybe, I wouldn't say that it was when I thought that I had arrived, but it was when I could take a breath and be like, okay, this was cool. But no, after the Clemson, it was just two completely different feelings as far as Clemson, South Carolina.
Yeah, it's got to be nice to have the 93,000 people in the stands actually wanting you to succeed, as opposed to the 81 or 82,000 people who would have loved nothing more than for you to mess up.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's very different in that when you're on the road, okay, it gets loud before the kick, and you know that you made it if it gets quiet, right?
Yeah.
Versus at home, it's quiet when you go on out there, and if it gets loud, then you know you're good. Like you hit the kick. So just two opposites. I guess there's a part of me that, you know, the chip on my shoulder part of me that enjoys kind of making everything quiet, you know, on the road. But
Absolutely,
it was so cool to come back to Sanford and you know, to kick it, you know, place that since I'd stepped on campus, I was like,
It's
well,
probably pretty nice to be the villain every once in a while.
yeah, that appeals to me a little
Where
bit.
you could just look at the stadium and just go, shh.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna antagonize them.
You would, if we had played Florida, if you grown up a Gator fan, would you have given the crowd, if you had a game-winning kick, would you have given them one of these to taunt them now? Would you have done it to them?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I got the kick in the following week against Steve Spurrier, and that was like, I don't really like. I'm not big into like celebrities or anything like that, but getting to shake his hand after the game, he said, "Hey, good game, kid." I was like, my God, like everything's come full circle. Like I grew up, you know, imitating him as far as like throwing the visor and stuff when I was 4 or 5 years old, and it's like, here we are. You know, I helped to beat my hero. So
that is actually a really cool moment.
That was the cool part. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to ask one more thing about those days, and we're not going to keep you too much longer. I got a couple things I want to ask you about kind of what you're doing nowadays, but just one more thing on the topic of kind of going into that 2013 season, which that was not your last season. You played 2014 and 15, right, with me.
Right.
So we had some overlap, and you did get to kick in some of those games and stuff like that, I remember. So that's not where your career ended, but definitely with the Georgia Clemson game coming up this weekend, I think that's what is on everybody's mind.
Sure.
I'm curious. See, I was really close to I still am very close to my parents, but growing up, really close to my parents. I just got to know, like, did you call your folks when you found out that you won the starting job? Like when you won that, like what was the first thing you did when you left practice that day, knowing that you were going to be kicking that weekend against Clemson?
Yep. So I called my parents. Yeah. I mean, my dad and I, he was the one who would always take me out to the practice field, you know, in high school and that sort of thing. We'd kick together on Sundays, and yeah, it was a special moment, but it was also kind of like, hey, you know, you got to keep this under wraps because you remember it was kind of a whole media thing where they weren't announcing who the starter was, and it was kind of like, you know, you'll see when we trot him out there. So yeah, I mean, my family knew, and my roommate knew. In college, but that was really about it. It was kind of a surprise for everybody.
Did your parents get to come to that game, Patrick?
They did, yeah. So they were there, and I think they were kind of sitting up where they put the Georgia parents was kind of up in the nosebleeds a little bit, but they did get to go to that, and you know, I think what was really cool for them was also getting to go the following week. When I was at home and, you know, see me announced as like the starter and that sort of thing. So no, it was awesome. And my parents have always been so good to me. I mean, you know, now they're my friends and that sort of thing, but I've always looked up to my parents. My mom was in the Navy for 38 years. And she's an incredible person. And so is my dad. My dad worked in emergency medicine. He was the head of the ER at Grady Hospital for a number of years, and has been doing hyperbarics for, you know, since like 1998 or something like that. And he's, I mean, it's funny to me. Well, it's not funny, but it's inspirational to me that I still have people who come up to me and say, "Hey, your dad treated me. He may have saved my leg, or he may have saved my life."
Mhm.
So to have those two people as your parents, I'm very proud of them.
As well, you should be, man. As well, you should be. What'd your high school coaches think about you getting a start?
It's funny. So the following week after South Carolina, we had an off week, so I went home and I went to go see them play. And the head coach was just kind of like gave me a hug, and he was just like, "Congratulations." It was one of those things where it's like, maybe I thought I should have played more. Maybe I didn't deserve it or whatever in high school, but I don't know. It was one of those things where it was kind of funny to go back so soon afterwards. And all my high school coaches were really, really supportive of me. As far as like, when I made the team and all that, but it was special to especially get to see my mentor, Stephen Furr, who, he was the guy who kicked at Clemson, see him afterwards, and just kind of be like, hey man, we made it,
Can you imagine his mindset if it really did come down at the very end to you having to kick the game winner? I guess I feel, I don't know your mentor, but I feel kind of confident he would still want you to make it that one time, beat Clemson one time.
Yeah, he 100% would have. It was I guess a similar but different experience in that his first game actually getting to play and go on the field was when he was at Clemson against Georgia in 2002.
Wow.
And I don't remember if it was his first play or if it was like, later on in the game, but he had a kickoff get housed on him.
Wow.
So
hopefully Georgia didn't do any of those this weekend.
Dude, the world is crazy though, man. Like all these connections. And Georgia, the odd thing is that since this millennium, we played in 2002, 2003, Georgia and Clemson, and then 2013, 2014. That's it. We got like a lot of crossover here with our lives with Georgia and Clemson, which I guess is not that surprising if anybody watching this doesn't realize the proximity between Georgia and Clemson is really close. I didn't even know that until I went to grad school.
How close Clemson, is even closer.
Because me and Rhett hang out a lot, and it's kind of crazy how short the drive is, even to get to Greenville. But
how far is it? Like an hour and a half
to get to Clemson from my house where I'm at right now in Athens. I think is about 70 miles. It's probably like an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. Depending.
Wow. And then Greenville's like hour 45.
At the most. I think it's like to get to his apartment from my house like hour and 35, hour and 37. So yeah,
I drive the speed limit.
It's actually a little bit easier a lot of times, just because of traffic being a concern. It's a little bit easier sometimes to get to Clemson or Greenville than it is to get to Atlanta, depending on the time of day.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I don't think a lot of people realize that nationally.
It's not a bad drive either.
No, there's a pretty route you can take through the country there. But so anyway, about you at the present, kind of in closing. You still lift any weights? You still staying active at all? What's going on? I know you have a newborn. So well, he's not super newborn now. How old is he now? You said
he's 4 months old. Yeah. He's still young, but once you get past the first 2 months, it gets a lot easier. You get into a routine, but definitely still lift. I'm usually in there, usually between 5 and 6 times a week. Depends on, my son and my wife. And then also, what my job's looking like that week, since it can be, I could travel or just could be a busy week or something like that. So definitely still try and get in there. I think I'm actually probably stronger upper body wise now. But as far as lower body, man, I'm not trying to, max out on squats anymore. I'm going usually for 10 to 12 reps per set on squats. Not really into hang cleans anymore. I'll do some power cleans, but I always hated hang cleans for some reason. So pretty much no hang cleans and no front squats.
Well, I'm impressed that you're still lifting like that period there, right? What were you about to interject there?
Just 10 to 12 squats, man.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Me and Rhett, we're power lifters. So we don't anything over like 6 reps for us is cardio at this point.
Yeah.
Like it sounds miserable with any weight to do 12 reps on squat. But back in the day, that's what I would have wanted to do was like the lighter to middle weight with more reps. Now, that sounds terrible now, doesn't it, right?
Yeah, so my program, I do 5x10 squat, but I'm supposed to anyways.
Yeah, it's terrible though.
Yeah.
So, Coach cool. Thomas, if JT is watching, Coach Thomas, I was inspired by you as far as, I still use some of your techniques, but I can't say that I go as hard, hit wise as I did during those workouts. I mean, Huff, did you have JT for?
I did. Actually, it's pretty cool now to see where Aaron Feld has ended up as the head coach at Oregon. He was my guy. I worked a lot with JT, but actually, not to go too off on my own thing here, I got to know him really well because when I first came out in the summer, I was not making all my times on 110s. So I got to know Coach Thomas very well on some Saturday mornings until I threw up. I got to know him so well until I threw up. And but it's cool though. One thing about playing football at that level, the way that they push you during the off season to the point where like you feel like you hate each other. You just resent what they're making you do because it's so hard. But when you get to the season, I think about Coach Thomas, Gus Felder. These guys were some mean cusses during the offseason, but when I was in practice and they were just kind of they weren't as involved in the practice, they were the first ones to like really be rooting for me in practice, really excited when I made a play. Like I feel like those were great dudes. But yeah, Aaron Feld, dude, he's like the face of strength and conditioning now, it seems like. He's so popular. But yeah, on this you're saying, I think I cut you off there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying that, I mean, you're 100% right that, God, I mean, JT, I've never been pushed like that in my life as far as how hard he would make me work out. So I got him one-on-one when I first joined the program. We had kind of like voluntary lifts, which I thought, hey, everybody's going to be there for the voluntary lifts. It was like in May in that time frame. I was the only one there. So I got JT one-on-one when I was still like 140 pounds, and he almost killed me that day. But I'm telling you, he and Coach T are two of my absolute favorite people from my 4 years in Georgia. Both of them outstanding men and guys that I went to for just advice on life. After a workout and stuff like that, if we had time, I'd sit in their offices for, over an hour just talking to them. Hey, what should I do on this? Have you experienced this before? Just, talking about family and life and that sort of thing. So if JT, I think you may be watching, I appreciate you, Coach. I love you.
I appreciate all of them too. And you get to know the strength staff better really than any other coach that you work with, except maybe your position coach because of all the film study that goes into it. But I mean, you really get to know your strength coach as well. And I agree. And Joe Tereshinski, and what a guy, man. I hated that I think he left the program in between 2014 and 15,
right, if
memory serves me. And then we had Coach Mark Hockey come in, who was also great. I liked all those guys. But Coach Tereshinski, he really bled red and black, and I hope he's doing well. You need to reach out to him.
If there is a guy who embodies what the University of Georgia football program is, it is Joe Tereshinski.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I think we about got it. What I want to ask you though, my last question, if Rhett has anything, I'll let him, but you probably are not as invested in maybe not invested is the right word, but you probably don't pay as close attention to Georgia football as you did while you were on the team. But based off of what you have been able to keep up with, what do you think about Saturday, man? What you got for the Dawgs in Clemson?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult in that. I mean, it certainly seems like Georgia's going to be missing some key components on offense. Got some injuries, and so we're going to have some guys step up. I mean, it's next man up. And then I know, both teams are going to have outstanding quarterback play. So it could turn into a shootout, but I mean, at the same time, both programs known for their defense. So I know that the Vegas line right now is 3.5 to Clemson. It pains me to say it. I'm probably going to say I'll take Clemson 28-24 right now.
All right, now. So that if we had a bigger platform here, you might be making headlines here. Aaron Murray stepped in it a couple of times kicking against Georgia, so you got to be careful out here.
I get it. So let me give some context to that. In that, as you've gotten older, you learn to, you hope for the best, but you expect the worst a little bit. And if your head is telling you something, but your heart is telling you another thing, the older you get, I feel like the more you listen to your head rather than your heart. So my heart is that I truly hope that Georgia wins. But for some reason, I mean, just with injuries and that sort of thing, and you know, it's in Charlotte, so you got to figure there's going to be, even though it's a neutral site, there's going to be a little bit more Clemson fans there. I'm thinking that Clemson may pull this out.
I feel like I need to be like Corso here and just pull out a big hairy dog head and put it on right now.
Okay.
I've got Georgia winning by 2 touchdowns this weekend. I'm calling it 31-17. Dogs are going to get it done. We're going to let both the kickers get a little involved. We're going to have a little field goal action in honor of Patty B. Georgia's got a pretty good kicker right now.
He does. Yeah, they do.
Jack Pod. So, yeah, but I got the Dogs, and I have a feeling I know who Rhett's going to go with.
I'm gonna have to go Clemson, man. Gonna have to go Clemson. What score do you say? 34-17?
I'm 31-17, but actually I'm going to revise it in honor of Herschel Walker running for office. I'll say 34-17 there. 34 there.
Then I'll say 37-17.
Oh, wow. So there's really no in between. You know, I've got the fortune of sitting next to this guy on Saturday. So one of us is going to leave in a really good spirit, and the other one just hopefully I don't even know what to say about that. But we'll enjoy our time in Uptown Charlotte afterwards, one way or the other.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm kind of just talking crap. I'm actually worried about Georgia.
Yeah.
But
hey, so one last shout out to
what's that, Patrick?
What's that? I was saying one last shout out to Herschel Walker. I actually got to thank him because I did get a scholarship for the last semester of my senior year as kind of a, hey, thanks for keeping the team's GPA up and working hard for 4 years. So the guy who sponsored my scholarship was Herschel Walker. It's the Christian Walker Scholarship. So even though I'm sure he had no idea who I was, nor did he want a backup kicker having his scholarship, thank you. I used that money to buy my wife an engagement ring. So I appreciate it, Herschel.
So there you have it, folks. From a Florida fan to a JV kicker to succeeding on the biggest stages in college football against both the teams in the Palmetto State, Patrick Beless, we cannot thank you enough for joining us tonight. It's an unbelievable pleasure.
Oh, thank you all for having me on. I'm a fan of the channel. I was telling Rhett earlier, big fan of the Montana video, and I was also, you know, I thought it was pretty entertaining to watch the bench and burnouts video as well.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching Undeniably Raw, everybody.